Gauteng province has created a relief for the benefit of individuals within the sports and arts sector. This is out of the realization that sports and arts continue to be one of the sectors that is hardest hit by the COVID pandemic. And in this regard, as a caring government, we have found means of how we can create some form of relief for individuals within the sectors, but also possible job opportunities. And in this regard, one of the things that we have done with all the national events or national day events that we do have, we've made them virtual and are still able to employ and work with various artists and sports individuals. And this has been done from our Human Rights Day, our Freedom Day, and now with Youth Month. We continue to integrate artists and sports individuals within, so that whilst COVID does not allow for major events to take place, by going virtual, it enables us to still be able to utilize these skills and showcase the talent that the province has. With regard to the Gauteng Relief Fund that is created for individuals within the sports and arts sectors, this is a relief fund of 28 million, which we seek to find individuals who work within our communities. These may be individuals who teach art classes within communities, who coach soccer teams within communities, netball teams and so forth across the various sporting codes. These are the individuals who play a critical role in the development of our communities. These are people who ensure that our communities keep fit and, more importantly, are engaged within positive recreational activities. Our fund is geared at all these people, and all we ask is that you come and apply, visit our website, visit our social media pages at Gauteng SACR, that's at Gauteng SACR, and you'll be able to get more information. We really want to make sure that we assist these individuals because we appreciate the work that they do in our communities, because it is in line with what government seeks to do, and we want to make sure that people continue being engaged within positive activities such as recreation, within arts, within our sports and so forth. So please do apply. This fund is for you. Gauteng province has created a relief for the benefit of individuals within the sports and arts sector. This is out of the realization that sports and arts continue to be one of the sectors that is hardest hit by the COVID pandemic. And in this regard, as a caring government, we have found means of how we can create some form of relief for individuals within the sectors, but also possible job opportunities. And in this regard, one of the things that we have done with all the national events or national day events that we do have, we've made them virtual and are still able to employ and work with various artists and sports individuals. And this has been done from our Human Rights Day, our Freedom Day, and now with Youth Month. We continue to integrate artists and sports individuals within, so that whilst COVID does not allow for major events to take place, by going virtual, it enables us to still be able to utilize these skills and showcase the talent that the province has. With regard to the Gauteng Relief Fund that is created for individuals within the sports and arts sectors, this is a relief fund of 28 million, which we seek to find individuals who work within our communities. These may be individuals who teach art classes within communities, who coach soccer teams within communities, netball teams, and so forth across the various sporting codes. These are the individuals who play a critical role in the development of our communities. These are people who ensure that our communities keep fit and, more importantly, are engaged within positive recreational activities. Our fund is geared at all these people, and all we ask is that you come and apply, visit our website, visit our social media pages at Gauteng SACR, that's at Gauteng SACR, and you'll be able to get more information. We really want to make sure that we assist these individuals because we appreciate the work that they do in our communities, because it is in line with what government seeks to do, and we want to make sure that people continue being engaged within positive activities such as recreation, within arts, within our sports, and so forth. So please do apply. This fund is for you.
Sorry for that, guys. We're having some little sound issues, but we're working on it. Hopefully, we're not going to have another problem soon. So let's start this again, and let me introduce you to my panelists for this session. Let's start with Ukutlwano. Ukutlwano Ditsele is a filmmaker, a writer, as well as a co-owner of Seriti Films, which is a production company that produces shows like The Hurt and the hugely popular Gomorrah telenovela, which is airing right now on Mzansi Magic. We also have Sibu Mabena, who is a creative comms specialist. She's worked with some of the biggest brands in terms of talent in South Africa, as well as brands in the marketing space. We also have Mihlale Damase, who is an influencer and an entertainment personality. But Mihlale holds the distinction as well as being one of the most successful, well, take that as you will, influencers in South Africa. Hey, guys.
Hi.
Okay, round two, we're doing it again. Let's talk about what is an influencer. Mihlale, you want to take that? What is a social media influencer? What exactly is that? What does that entail?
So a social media influencer is an individual who uses platforms on social medias to influence people's buying decisions. Usually it is people try and promote products or services or brands by endorsement deals in a very authentic way by incorporating it in their lifestyle.
Okay, cool. Sibu, in your line of work, what do you look for in an influencer? What separates a regular film pillar on social media to a Mihlale for you?
You know, I think the influencer thing has been made to be such a taboo thing on social media. It's got a bit of a stigma to it because people have all of a sudden started hating on those who get paid to promote products. But people have been doing it since time immemorial. Anyone who's able to sell a product and influence you to buy something is by virtue of that an influencer. So in my opinion, I think you get different types of influencers. Those who create content to showcase a product. Then you have those who use their platforms because they have a lot of numbers to showcase the content around this product. So some people who are advertising platforms, just like an SABC One, ETV, Mzansi Magic, you can take celebrities who have those kind of numbers as such and like compare each of them to each other the way you compare channels to each other. And then you have people organically incorporate a brand into their lifestyle. And in that sense, people will then be like, oh, okay, if Mihlali likes it, then I like Mihlali. Surely I should be liking the product that she is using. So for me, when I'm promoting a product, it depends on what the objective is. Am I trying to sell a show? Am I trying to drive tune into a show that Kutlwano has made? Am I trying to sell a product? Am I trying to influence people to know about something? That's what determines the type of person I'm going to use to push a campaign.
Okay, cool. Kutlwano, you've been in the business for a while, so you've been in it when traditional mediums were like the go-to spaces for you to kind of like get your films and your television programs to be promoted. Now you've got social media. How does that factor into your line of work right now?
You know, I've always said that for me, the most powerful form of like pushing a show is word of mouth. You know, nothing is more powerful than walking into a store. And I went to the dry cleaners the other day, and the lady says, every time you want to come and you know, and then so for me, having to have to take that word of mouth and shift it onto social media just amplifies it even more. So, you know, you can have all these trailers and whatnot, but if Phil says the show sucks, a lot of people that listen to what Phil has to say, they're gonna slowly be affected by that. So for me, it's a massive thing. You know, I really do feel, it adds to that word of mouthness. That's always really worked for us.
All right, cool. Mihlali, let's talk about the do's and don'ts of being a social media influencer. Okay, let's start with the positive. What is it that if I decide today that I want to make a living as a social media influencer and I want to be able to kind of like have an impact in the
should be doing number one?
You need to be consistent. I would say that's one of the most important things, especially right now that it's, you know, it's a fast-paced growing industry that's becoming slightly saturated, as some would say. So being consistent is very, very important. You also need to pick your niche and be authentic, be true to who you are, and understand your brand and what the objective is of your brand. Those are my do's.
Yeah. And what is the biggest no-no? Like, don't go there. Don't do this.
Biggest no, I would say never ever compromise your authenticity for a check. Like once you start working with brands just for the sake of a check, it just takes away from people trusting you and you being a credible influencer, and that just ruins your entire career. So never ever just do something for the bag.
Yeah. Sibul, taking on that issue of authenticity, okay? What is authenticity? Because if the brand has a certain line of messaging that they're trying to push, okay, and that messaging is not really necessarily what you do. Like, I'll give you an example, right? I'm not a glamorous guy, so I'm not gonna be doing a Dom Perignon campaign, you know? But sometimes I need the money and people who follow me might be interested in that. How do you marry the two?
Again, I suppose it speaks to the objective of the brand. And if it's a luxurious brand and they want to position themselves in the luxury space and how what they put out, everything is in HD and it's lit a certain way and it's ultra glam, the guy who does content in a completely different way, the opposite to that, wouldn't make sense for a campaign like that. However, I want to use a practical example. Yesterday, Bonang went live on her Instagram and she was drinking the S brand. And people were shocked and they were like, how? Mugele unwa S brand? Is she not a shampoo darling? Is that not her brand, that she only drinks bubbles? And the reality is that people are multifaceted. And that's what we need to remember when we look at human beings who promote shows. Today, a human can enjoy Gomorrah until they see something that doesn't relate or something that they don't like about the show. And then all of a sudden, Gomorrah is the worst show on earth. A human being is allowed to change their mind. So you can go from being non-glam today to glam tomorrow. Does that mean that people have to come for you because you've decided to make a decision? And the human beings who are following you and who are looking at you need to also acknowledge that they too make changes in the decisions that in their purchasing decisions based on what they've seen. So like to Kutlwano's point earlier on when he was saying, if Phil says a show sucks, people are also at liberty to say, no, Phil is wrong. So if Queen Bee says, I'm drinking champagne today and I'm drinking S brand tomorrow, then people also at liberty to choose to drink champagne today or stop drinking champagne and start drinking the S brand tomorrow. At the end of the day, as human beings who buy into marketing campaigns, we also have to use our own kelelo to decide what makes sense to us. What do you like about Mihlali that applies in your life? What do you like about the shows that Plano makes that applies to your life? That's how we need to be processing all of this information that we get from the people that we like and aspire to be like.
Yeah. Kutlano, right now, the marketing space is looking at social media as the go-to space, for promotion and amplifying their messaging. You, as a filmmaker and somebody who works in television, you have to sell airtime for the channel. These brands have to buy airtime during your show. How then do you not allow the hype that the brand wants via social media affect the quality of the content that you put on television?
Sure, damn good question. It is it's a constant challenge for us, especially when you're, depending on the time, especially with the time slot. If I just speak about Gomorrah alone, looking at the time slots you're in, starting off just before this call, I was in the brainstorming. We're talking about a new show that we're creating, and there's a space that we want to go into. And my partner said, we can't go into this world, because if we go into this world, we're going to start alienating quite a massive chunk of the audience, meaning channel won't be able to sell the space. So it is something that we have to always be aware of in terms of the content that we're going to put out. We have to be aware of who's watching at what time and what can we not show them, so the channel can specifically at this particular moment. Is it a hindrance? I don't know. I think it just helps us box clever. We learn as creatives, we just got to learn how to box clever and just be like, okay, cool. On this show we can't do it, but on this next show we can do it because it's a little bit late or whatever. So it's just really being aware of your, as you know, with Gomorrah. Funny enough, somebody was saying Gomorrah is a show about hijacking and was sponsored by Outsurance. Go figure. But sometimes people just don't care. Whatever. So it helps us box clever.
However, though, sorry, to the point about Outsurance versus hijacking. Now people are watching something and becoming or being made conscious of, hey, this hijacking thing is real. You can be coming from Sydney, driving to somewhere, and Abanpase Bagtole. And then you see an Outsurance ad in between all of that messaging. And you're like, oh shit, because now you're conscious about it. Here's the solution. And you are now influenced indirectly. You don't have Gomorrah telling you to go and buy an insurance policy. However, because you're conscious of it and the timing of the messaging meeting when you are watching, already Outsurance is winning. It just makes sense.
Yeah, but Sibu, in terms of the film industry, for instance, right? One of my biggest gripe with the film industry is there's lack of innovation when it comes to promoting films. Okay, I understand that there's not a lot of money in filmmaking in South Africa, but I believe that not all measures have to be about the money. You can find innovative ways to promote something using a very limited budget. So in your space as a comm specialist, when a Kutlano comes to you and says, hey, you know what, I don't have 500,000 rand to do like a mass promotion thing. What can you do for me with 30,000 rand using social media? Who do you go to first? Do you go to the big guys like your Mihlali, who's gonna say, hey, I'm gonna take the whole 50 grand? Or do you look at other spaces in terms of being innovative and saying, you know what, I'll take Mihlali and negotiate at 10 and then use micro influencers?
We've done that. So we are the like Mihlali hates it because sometimes she's like, that's wait, Kat, what's the point? But because she gets us, she gets that there is value in establishing business relationships with people who are going to see beyond the now as well. So let's use each other, but let's use each other sustainably. Don't use me today when you've got 30,000 only, but then tomorrow when you've got 200,000, so next door.
Yeah.
So that's point one. But two, a combination of strategies also works. I'm a firm believer in mixing old school ways of marketing with the new school ways. So I won't stick it to social media only. What about flyers on the street? What about going and dropping off handheld communication in office parks to say, guys, there's a new show coming up, using the cast on a show to go and do appearances at Pick and Pay and go. She's buying groceries, Jessica gross. While she's doing that, she's handing out flyers. And then that creates a personal relationship. And I'm giving away ideas, use them, whatever. That creates a personal relationship with the tellers at the show who are going to say, Jessica, creative ways to marry the people or the things or the different tools that you have in your ecosystem. So yes, the social media way of promoting things works. You look at Moja Love and what they're doing with We Are Jola 99. They've got, we can see who's an influencer there. Last season, Tati Register. So Mizi posting about it. Karabo, those are the big cats. And you'll find that they have them, I don't know the structure of the deals, but you'll find that they have on a retainer. And the retainer also builds.
Okay, I think we might have just lost Usibu again. While we wait for Usibu to come back.
I'm so sorry. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah, we're good now.
So sorry, just to like wrap it up, I think the sustainable, the more predictable the relationship, between channel and or client and influencer, the more work you'll be able to get out of them, because then they know that, okay, for a year, I'm dedicated to this person. Even if they pay me only 10,000 Rand per month, at least we know the relationship is established and there can be trust between the two parties. So combine your marketing efforts, and then also, if you can, establish trust between you and whoever you're using.
Yeah. Mihlale, in terms of branding, how important is it to brand yourself as an influencer? Because like you said earlier, the market has gotten a bit saturated to a certain extent. How do you stand out? How do you brand yourself in a way that everybody wants to come and work with you?
Well, you know what? I think just identifying your niche is the most important thing in a space that is becoming saturated. What do I want my brand to stand for? What is the value of my brand? Which brands would I like to align myself with? It just makes it easier to navigate in the space and to see exactly where you want to position yourself once you've branded yourself. So I think that's honestly the most important thing.
Yeah, cool. Let's expand on that niche thing so that people understand what you're talking about when you talk about a niche. Expand that.
So your niche, who are you communicating with? When people think the brand Mihlali or when they think the brand Phil, what do they associate it with? So for example, my brand is beauty, lifestyle related, it's related to fashion as well. But I'm known, the core of my brand is the makeup girl. So usually when people think about deals when it comes to me, it's usually very lifestyle or even beauty related makeup, hair. I try to dabble in a lot of glam more often. So that's basically identifying your niche. So once you know what the core of your brand is, that way you'll know who exactly you like to align with and who you can be associated with in the industry.
Okay, Kutlwano, let's get controversial for a second. Following. Let's talk about following. There's this perception right now, especially on social media, that actors are being hired because of the followings that they have. Actors have become influencers and they're getting hired for roles simply because they are influencers and they've got these numbers. Is this perception a reality, or is it just one of those social media things?
I'll be honest, I've heard this quite a lot. I kind of believe the opposite in that, if you look at our shows, in fact, I can give you case for case with Gomorrah. Ama Kamata, Stelo, and our three young leads, right? When they started, all of them were under 10,000 followers. I think they might have been under 5,000 followers. 2 months into the show, all of them are above 100,000 and still growing. So I kind of, it's a choice for some production companies. They feel like we need to have somebody with a big following to come on. I kind of feel like the shows can also create that following for you. We personally love to have new faces. We generally, you've seen all of our shows, we always go for new faces, and we know that following will grow. I think all of our youngsters, actually, they all had a screenshot of the first day of Gomorrah of their social media following, and they were all like literally 3,300. Teddy, the character plays Teddy, had 300 or 400 followers. He's now on 100 and something thousand followers, and it's only been 2 months that we're on. So I know I'm not gonna I'm not knocking anybody. I know that there are some people who come want to have the people with 1 million followers to come on, and that's all good. That's the way they want to go. We kind of go the opposite. We just want to go, and when I say the opposite, I'm not even saying that we're going for people with less followers. We're going for the people that we feel are right, irregardless of the following. Sometimes they do have the following, and sometimes they don't. But yeah.
And to add on to that, I mean, it's not a bad thing, because having people who can attract, because at the end of the day, you want eyeballs, right? So if you can have somebody who can bring numbers to your show and they have the talent as well, that's a win-win for you.
Absolutely. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. For me, it all boils down to the talent. It boils down to the person who can carry this character. Whether that person has got 4 million followers or got the 4 followers, I kind of believe that ultimately the talent and the character will bring that following.
Yeah. Misale, in terms of the pressures though of being in that space, not to offend you in any way. I mean, you blew out of nowhere, basically. You know what I mean? One day Misale was everywhere. But that comes with its own pressures, where now, because somebody has decided that they're gonna elevate you and put you on this pedestal as the most beautiful girl on the internet, the most successful influencer in South Africa, now there's any expectations that come with that. How do you deal with that as an individual?
Geez, well, you know what they say, to whom much is given, a lot is tested. So there's a lot of pressure that comes with what I do, a lot of it, especially as when people put you on that pedestal, people sort of feel like your destiny lies in their hands when they want to remove you. So I think I just really try and focus on the positive side of things, because the positive does outweigh the negative. And I just focus on building my brand. And whenever I do get distracted, or if I trend for the wrong reasons, or if anything comes up, at the end of the day, it's about what I do. That's why I am who I am. So you just really need to sort of shift people's focus away from the noise back into, this is Mihlali, this is what she's working on, and this is what she's doing right now. So that's how I deal with the pressure, honestly. Focus on the bigger picture.
Yeah, and in terms of your voice as a young woman living in South Africa with all these issues that are happening in South Africa, right? In terms of your own personal voice, how do you incorporate that into what you do, cognizant at the same time of the fact that you cough, it becomes an issue on social media? Everything that you do is taken out of context and all of that. So how do you still retain your voice while still being cognizant of the fact that people will take what you say and twist it?
I try to put my foundation at the forefront of all my activism. So if there's anything I feel strongly about or passionate about, I sort of make sure that I focus on Siyasizana Foundation, making a difference where I can, contributing towards the movement. So we do a lot of women's drives. We support a lot of shelters for women who are abused and abandoned. We support a lot of schools in underprivileged areas. So I sort of just, focus on having my voice communicated through that channel, because as you said, a lot of people can try and nitpick anything that you put out there, any opinion that you share. I don't believe in being silent at all, because I think that doesn't do anything, but I'd rather be someone who makes a change, makes a difference, than just, making a hashtag trend.
All right, cool. Sibu, let's talk about influencers in the film space. I think in terms of promoting brands, that's, for me, in my opinion, that's an easy one. When you bring it into the film production side, what do you think needs to change there, in your opinion?
Look, at the end of the day, we are driving viewership. We're driving eyes to the screen, whether it's your cell phone, laptop, TV. And the job becomes harder because there's so many more options. Here, you're not asking people to make decisions on things they need in their lives. You're asking people to choose my TV show over the other one, or in an hour, at an 8 o'clock slot, you have an option of 230 things to watch on DSTV. And then there's still Netflix and Showmax. So where I personally, because Philimpela is quite an influencer in that he drives information and knowledge about a show, and then that drives your interest, because you're like, why?
Oh, I think we might have lost her again.
Sorry, these phone calls keep coming in and the network is the ghetto. I'm so sorry.
Yes, continue.
That, okay, Mercy and Hema.
Yeah. Stop that, Mishale.
That's true. It lost viewership.
Why are you
I'm so
drinking your
sorry.
tea? You
Let's
sipping
see.
tea? Okay, we'll get back to you. Let's try and sort that out. Let's try and get that sorted because I'm interested in that. Kutlwano, while we wait for her to sort that out, you look at the Black film industry within our film industry as a whole, right? And how our Black films are not performing that well, you know. And a lot of people will be like, they're not doing that because there's no marketing behind it, you know. In your opinion, as a filmmaker, what do you think we are doing wrong? Outside of just engaging the social media people, what are we doing wrong? What can we do right?
You're talking about just in South Africa?
Yeah, just in South Africa.
I'm not sure if it's a what we're doing wrong question versus a legacy question of where our films have come from and the trust that people have with the kinds of films that they make. Because let's be honest, Black Panther, people came out, you know? People came out. So it's not that they're not there. And also, so, you know, there's always this argument of, oh, we don't have a cinema going culture. But then you put a movie like Black Panther out and everybody comes out. So, well, where were they before? They were there, right? So they
or Tyler Perry.
Exactly, or Tyler Perry. So I think it's the legacy of where we come from. And I think that as filmmakers, or the film industry, we're still growing that trust for someone who loves watching Tyler Perry, who loves watching Will Smith, who loves watching all the American stuff, to say, okay, I'm going to spend this $100 on Kutlwano's film. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's number one. And number two, without a doubt, it's hard for us to say that the marketing isn't a big factor. You know, what you call the film we're talking about, Black Panther, has a $70 million marketing budget just for marketing.
Yeah.
So we obviously aren't going to compare, but I think for me, I think the biggest thing is the legacy of the quality. And we love South African content, right? That's why Mzansi Magic remains number one. We love watching ourselves. We love watching our stories. So it's not as people don't want to watch the thing, but there's a difference between being able to sit at home and click the channel than me getting in my car, driving to the Sandton or to wherever my nearest cinema is, and then paying money. You know, for that kind of trust, I think for that level of commitment, we need to build that trust, which I think we're getting there. It's going to take us a hell of a lot, but it just so happens in a moment where things are going backwards, where streaming has now become this big thing, and cinema culture is dying as a worldwide. So
but why is our film industry, not engaging the private sector in as much as, you know, like in America, for instance, in Hollywood, right? You'll have private investors who have nothing to do with the actual film industry itself, who will be putting money behind films. Why aren't we having that culture here in South Africa of having private individuals and private businesses actually putting money behind films?
I think it's pretty simple. In America, we've got I might be wrong, 300-400 million people. So if I get 10% of that, that's 40 million people. I've made my money back. Everything else that I make outside is a bonus. Worldwide distribution in America is a bonus. They know that they can make films for their people, just in the same way that they can in China. They've got enough of their people that are watching their content. We don't have enough locally. So I can't say to you, Sibu, give me $1 million. I promise you, people are gonna watch this film. Well, which people? You know, or I'm gonna get some people. Like, you can't get people in Johannesburg to watch your movie. Trust me, you're not gonna get people in Copenhagen to watch your movie. So America is an industry because they have enough of a population to make their money back in America. They make their majority of their money back in America. Everything else is just a cherry on top. Do you know what I mean?
So, okay, cool. No, continue.
No, I'm saying that's really, for me, the simplest way of looking at it.
All right, cool. So before I shout out our sponsors, Mishale, I want you to touch on the issue of you as an influencer. How do we get into a culture of getting people outside of just tweeting about a hashtag and actually spending money on what you're trying to influence them to do. You know what I mean? I don't know if that makes sense. That because a lot of the time in South Africa, you have a situation where a celebrity will be made a brand ambassador of a particular brand, right? People will tweet about it, people will congratulate her, but they won't necessarily go out and actually spend money on buying that product. For you, how do you, without giving away your tricks and what, how do you get your people to actually go buy and spend money on what you're trying to influence them to do?
Well, I think that's the beauty of influencers versus celebrities. You know, a lot of people find us that much more relatable. For example, if Bonang is, you know, endorsing a product, you sort of look at it as, as the average person, I probably can't afford it because of the life that she lives, very luxurious, you know what I'm saying? Whereas with the, you know, with platforms like YouTube as well, they sort of put us at an advantage in the sense that you let people into your life. People can sort of gauge what's realistic in terms of relating to someone. What can I afford that Mihlali has? So that's where it's better to, you know, you're in a better position to influence people's buying decision. So I think influencers do that extremely, extremely well. And another thing is, aside from making a hashtag trend or just in announcing a deal, people want to see that this product. People want to see that you're actually enjoying this product. So it's all about being very transparent with your relationship with the brand, you know, what you like about this and what you don't, giving people like an honest experience and feedback. That's really going to influence people to actually spend their hard-earned money on something.
Yeah. Okay. Before we continue, I'd like to shout out our sponsors, the Gauteng Film Commission, as well as the National Film and Publication Board. Would also like to say thank you to the guys at the Department of Arts and Culture, Sports and Recreation who made all of this possible. The issue of budgets. How do we get to a point where our budgets are reflective of the needs that our filmmakers in this country have? How do we get to that point? Like, what do we do? What do we do? How do we get there?
I mean, look, if I had the answer, I think we would be doing it. Right now, I resign myself to the fact that budgets are based on priorities. I've seen people spend 10 million rand on a TVC that's going to play for 30 seconds, but it's going to play 1,000 times across various channels. And then you have people who also create really amazing productions off of R1 million budget from hustling. And at the end of the day, and I don't want to, I'm not saying this it's going to sound insensitive, but your story that you want to tell as a filmmaker may not be an important story to the person with the money. It may not be a story that the person who must decide if they're going to spend this money wants to or cares about or relates to. So I think it's the priorities matching the budget. Are you servicing what this money is intended for? A white person may come with a story that makes sense to their people, but then there's only 5 million people in this country that could possibly relate. Of those 5 million, how many are actually going to watch? So if I spend this 1 million that I have on this project, is it going to yield the best result for me? I don't know. The next person has a black story, and is the story, has it been told already? Do we need to hear another reiteration of it? Maybe not, maybe yes. It all boils down to the person who has to decide, how am I going to spend this 1 million rand that I have and get the best result for it? So to answer, when are we going to get the budgets we need? Maybe Kutlana has a better answer than I do, but I really am saying it is based on the priority of the holder of the budget.
Kutlana, to segue on what Sibu was saying, exactly that. How much involvement does government have to have for this film to go? And I say this with an understanding that I personally feel like we should not have to rely on government all the time to actually be putting out creative projects, you know. But how much do you think government should be involved?
You know, I always say that, like it or not, the reason we know America as the America that we imagine it is purely because their biggest propaganda machine has been Hollywood, right? So a friend of mine in finance said, the dollar has kind of not been the greatest performing currency, because America has this massive "We Are America" thing that they've propagated, that all of us, with all their films over the years, it'll always have this power, right? That it really doesn't really have. So I've always felt that film is so important to every country. How you tell the narrative of your country or of your continent, it's so important in terms of you can't ignore that that's had a massive influence, that's had a major impact on the US. So I do feel that our government is doing quite a bit. Is it doing enough? It's a different dance, right? Yeah, is it doing enough? So I do think that there are massive, there are massive steps that they're taking, but I think that the film and TV are an afterthought to our government.
Yeah.
It's like, those guys. You know what
Did you want to add to that?
I do. I think there's something I heard. I think it was an MEC say that the matter of a government pot of money, and then there are competing priorities. All of them are priorities. Hospitals are priorities, funding for education, transport, infrastructure development, arts and culture. All of these things are priorities, but they compete. And at the end of the day, it boils down to decision makers to say, okay, this R5 that we have here, how are we going to grow the film industry? But is it going to contribute back into the pot the way we needed to, so that we can get R7? And then R7 must become R10, and R10 must become R15. But then how does everything else in the ecosystem help to support these objectives of making film or this priority profitable, to be able to get more money out of it? So I think from an economic perspective, we need to start then seeing filmmaking, to Kutlwano's point, and not just filmmaking, eventing, any arts, sports, this entire Department of Arts and Culture, Sports and Recreation. How does it then make sense to the country economically to invest in it, so that we're able to then yield profits off of it, so it can grow just like it is in America, to Kutlwano's point?
No, cool. At the top of the hour, guys, I want to talk about the remuneration in terms of the social media space, especially with you, Misale. But before we get that, let me just remind you at home, Khorem, the Gauteng Film Commission is hosting an online youth festival that's going to be happening on the 28th of June, which is this coming Sunday. So it's going to be streaming right here on YouTube. When you have time, do log on and stream that. All you have to do is just go into YouTube and go to the Gauteng Film Commission TV page. That's where you're going to see the festival happening there live. We'd also love to thank the Film and Publication Board for being one of our sponsors. I think I forgot to mention them earlier on. Right. Misali, let's talk money, babe.
You like
it?
Like this chat.
No. Hey. I know some people might not have seen that other interview, so let's do it again, okay? Without getting into your personal business and counting your coins, is the perception that you're making a lot of money real? Are you making the numbers that people are putting out there, or are you doing okay?
I'm happy.
You're happy.
I'm happy.
Okay. Let me rephrase this. This is a very difficult one without actually mentioning numbers. Okay, let me put it this way, right? Putting you on a rich list anytime soon, like world rich list.
There was one that was out. It was that one trending, and yeah, shame, I won't lie, people were pretty accurate. They were pretty accurate. But you know what? The thing with this thing is that a lot of people think that you'll jump into the industry and then now you're on a rich list. I started doing this a very long time ago. It took a lot of being exploited here and there, doing some free work. One time you get a good bag, and then the next time the brand is telling you that they don't have enough money. So every month is different, just like any other freelancer or entrepreneur. But I'm at a point where I can say that I'm blessed and I'm grateful. And
Okay, cool. And let's talk about. I love that you mentioned. I'm nosy, so hey, bear with me. Okay, let's talk about what you just mentioned. Being an entrepreneur, right? Because I think people don't understand that you are a business. You know, you've got a team behind you. You've got people that actually curate your business plan and your content and all that. Can you speak about that?
100%. I think people think that a lot of the times you just start sort of thumbs up content and then you just post about it. There's a lot that goes into the side of things. Some deals are negotiated a good 6 months before anything goes live. And outside of the, the influencer, the digital content, there's a lot of stuff that I do for my own personal business, various products that I put into place just to sort of expand my personal brand. So there's PR, there's a brand manager, there's finance involved, there's a lawyer involved to obviously read through all my contracts and whatnot. So there is an entire team that helps the brand become the brand and continue to be the strong brand that it is.
Well, you're doing very well, so I'm very, 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 very proud of you. Gudrun, let's talk about the talent on your productions, right?
When Phil calls your name,
Okay. What are you gonna say, Phil?
Good one. Yeah, well, it's sort of like about money, but here's the thing. You are first and foremost a storyteller, right? However, filmmaking is a business as well. So do you ever have conversations with your stars about the fact that they need to leverage the platform that you give them with your storytelling to actually be able to sustain themselves outside of just coming on set and shooting and be on TV? Like, do you ever have those conversations, especially with the young ones, that use this opportunity that I'm giving you and expand on that and create something outside of this for yourself?
I say it's the first thing I say to them. I say to them, it's an anomaly to have a generations, for 20 years and it keeps going. I say to them, I've been on many shows that have been canceled. So I always say to them, when you come in here, don't get comfortable, don't get complacent. Money is the first conversation that I have with all of, especially the young stars. Don't now, okay, good, you're earning really good money, straight out of school, never worked before. Now you're making real money. Now you're buying everything. I'm like, guys, understand that we're on right now, we're hot right now. Might not be the case 2 years from now, might not be the case, even a year from now. Who knows? We might not get a season 2. We don't know. So I always say to them, the moment that you come on, just come on knowing that this is a stepping stone to your next gig. Don't, of course, have fun. We're all, we've all been young and we've all, have those things, but be very clear about what you're doing. One, with your money, and two, how do people see you outside of just Teddy from Gomorrah? Because you gotta be a little bit more in order for you to survive. Yes, we pay well, but it's not gonna. It might not be there forever. And when Mnet call one day and say, "Hey guys, wrap it up," you want to make sure that you got places to go to.
Exactly. Look at what happened to Isidingo.
Absolutely. Isidingo can be so. The road, you know what I mean? We could go on for so many productions that were there and then just disappear. So the first thing I say to them, even right now, with like as recent as 2 days ago, I was speaking to one of the young stars. I'm saying, look, we're hot right now, but honestly, we don't know how long that's gonna last for. And just be careful of what you're doing, what you're saying, how you're placing yourself, how people see you. Don't just put random things on your Instagram. Look, people are looking at your Instagram. Your following is growing. So let's, think outside of what you just have right now. Like, be something outside of the show.
Yeah. Sibu, let's talk about the relationship that needs to be cultivated now that, the landscape is changing. Now we've got COVID-19, for instance, where the opportunities to be able to send your stars to television shows to do interviews are a bit limited right now. How do filmmakers now get to talk to you? Like how do you encourage them right now on this platform to production company to start working with companies like your company and say, hey, let's find ways to amplify what I'm doing as a storyteller and what you're doing as somebody who can, promote and work with brands?
I mean, something very important is the fact that people are leaving their houses less. People are spending time with their eyes on screens. It may be that you'll find people still work from home and all of that, but you find a lot more demand for content. And I think as a filmmaker, or just someone having the ability to tell a story is such an important skill, because if it was easy, everyone would be doing it. So to anyone that is starting a business or considering going into filmmaking because they've got the skill, they've got the talent, or they've got the eye, there is a demand for it. What is now the difficulty is, how do you tell a story that people want to see and people will be interested in? How are you finding innovative ways of telling the same story that's been told over and over again? How are you doing it in an affordable manner as well? Because to Kutlano's point, things can get canceled now. So if you are lucky enough to get commissioned to do something, how do you make it a project that will yield money for you beyond the profit that you've budgeted for? There's just so many different things to consider, but the fact is there is a demand for content. The question is just, how are you going to monetize it? And there are agencies like myself that have a demand for creating content for brands. And instead of a brand spending 3 million Rand on a TVC now, they could be spending 500,000 Rand across 3 different small agencies to say, these are our brand stories. How do you tell them in a way that can reach our audience, still in a really good quality manner, and a way that translates our brand essence and our brand message? And that's really my chat. Look at the brands, see what they need, and offer a solution. If you want to be able to.
But where does that conversation start though? Like, does it start with you pitching to them or them coming to you?
It goes both ways. There are people who sit on LinkedIn I've done this before actually, where I say, who's the brand manager for I'll say Lay's. Brand manager for Lay's. I just searched the internet. Brand manager for Lay's. I see, Lay's is under PepsiCo. Okay, go on to LinkedIn. PepsiCo. Search PepsiCo. Under there, you find brand manager, because someone has titled themselves as the brand manager. Found his name. Went onto Instagram. Said Instagram. Found him. Said DM Instagram. DM'd him the idea, and it was for one of our clients, talent. And then he said, cool, my agency is blah, 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 blah. Let's send your proposal to agency. Send proposal to agency. But I didn't know that the agency was Agency X. Kanti, I know the person who works on the brand at Agency X. I just didn't know they work on that brand. So I spent time mining the information so that I could propose a solution to them. And now we're able to work with them. So it's also taking the initiative and also not being lax about it and saying, oh no, hey Sibu, do you know the whoever for wherever? And it's like, no, do the same work that I did. Like, invest the time in the research so you can get to your end client. And I find that for you, a lot of young people, I'm young myself, but a lot of young people don't want to put in the hard work, because the cool work first starts with the hard work. And it asking around, okay, fine, where at Pick n Pay, I'm making a really bland example. Okay, there's a dairy milk on the shelf. Go to the store manager and say, where do you guys purchase this? Okay, they purchase it from whoever the brand house is, Cadbury. Okay, where does Cadbury's in Bryanston? Okay, sharp. Mission to Bryanston. Find the address. You find it. The internet is there. Go to the reception and say, hi, my name is so-and-so. I'm trying to do this. More often than not, person, if they're nice, will call so-and-so, marketing, brand manager, whatever, and then you'll get an email address. At least that's step one. You've done something. So I just mean we need to take a little bit more initiative. Our parents did it when 1976. They're like, yo, we're going to die for this. Tina, we want to be like, no, I can't find the information. Hey, Jan. Imagine if it was us back then. South Africa wouldn't be free now.
Well, people miss opportunity because often it looks like blue overalls and hard work.
But when it comes to performers, though, when a Kutlano, there's an element of entitlement that certain people have. And I always say, just because you believe that you've got the talent for something doesn't necessarily mean you're good at it and everybody's going to see that talent. You know, you might have to hone it first. You might have to go take classes, you know. But now you've got a situation now with social media and all of that where people are just saying, oh, somebody told me that I can act. therefore I deserve to be sitting in front of Kutlwano and auditioning for a role. With that in mind, how do you still open that door to allow new talent to come in, but still retain that, I don't know what the word is, still retain the substance of actually learning a craft?
Yeah. I always use Nomzamo as an example. When we
Yeah.
did Isibaya season 1, Nomzamo was an accounting student in Cape Town, and she had done this MTV VJ thing. That's where we first saw her.
Yeah.
And I remember that before the show went on, and for pretty much the first year of that show, Nomzamo stepped on set, and she had raw talent, but still a lot to build on. And I have such clear memory of Nomzamo often being on set when she didn't have to be on set, so she can learn how the other people that have been doing it for years have been doing it. I remember her taking classes. I remember her literally, she would shoot one scene in the morning and she would go home at 6 p.m. because she wanted to sit back. She never had this attitude of, well, I got the gig now, let me be out. She never had that entitlement. And for me, that's the right energy, right? You want to have the energy that says, okay, so I got this opportunity, but I can see that I'm lacking in a lot of boxes because this is the first time that I'm rolling onto this thing. How do I empower myself? How do I upskill myself? And it is sad to see that there have been quite a lot of actors throughout the years that I've seen that have not taken those opportunities, that have just gotten the gig and said, I've made it, I'm getting my check, I'm cool, I'm just going to deliver my things. And you actually start seeing them because you start looking, you're like, hey man, whatever happened to that person? Because after that particular show is done, they start disappearing. We stop thinking about them because they weren't there. And the reasons why Nomzamo continues because they knew, okay, cool. I have a deficit over here. Let me upskill myself. That entitlement for me, I see it every single day. I see it, well, not every single day. I see it quite often with a lot of people. I've seen it over the years, but I have also seen quite the opposite of people that are saying, I'm going to go all the way.
No. Mishale, let's talk about respect. A lot of people, like, when we started this conversation, I think Sibu alluded to that fact there. There's this negative connotation that is attached to the word influencer. Do you ever get that, and does it bother you?
It did in the beginning. It did, I won't lie, because I really felt like it sort of takes away from a lot of other things that I sort of identify in the space. But I am influential, so I've had to accept that I am actually an influencer. That's where the word derives from. So, people are aware of the fact that I am actually a content creator. I've been awarded for my craft. So yeah, I just had to ignore the negative connotation, and the reality is the fact that you are an influencer, therefore you are influential. I just feel like sometimes the word is used very loosely, but that's fine.
Yeah, but you just mentioned a buzzword there. You mentioned the fact that you're a content creator. Yes. But a lot of people don't see you as a content creator. If they're not calling you an influencer, they see you as a celebrity. Do you know what I mean? And I understand that comes with its own perks. Let's be honest, guys. The celebrity tag has its own perks.
No, it's my brand. My brand is because I'm a content creator. If I'm a celebrity for what? I've never done in actions. I don't sing.
Yeah, but you're celebrated. You've got a lot of young people who look up to you and appreciate the work that you put in and all of that. Sibu, how do you then? Because at the end of the day, when you've got a client like Umishai, right, you have to position her in a particular way as a brand for her to be attractive to other brands and have people want to work with her. How do you then have your own plan of what Mishale should be doing? And then you've got Mishale who's got her own plan as to this is who I am, but Mishale doesn't understand the game, doesn't understand the business of branding. I'm just saying, how do you have that conversation? Like, how do you find the middle ground to be able to allow Mishale to be Mishale, but still assert that thing? I know the industry, I know the business. When I'm telling you, don't be posting this on social media, I say that because I know it's not gonna be attractive to clients.
So, okay, let's speak about Mishale because she's here and we can talk openly and freely, and we are here to help people. The thing about someone like Mishale, she knows herself. She knows what got her here. And there was a time when there was a post about an experience in her past, and it blew up and it was just blown out of proportion. I wake up at like 9, it's a Sunday, or it was a Saturday morning actually. And then Audrey's like, hey, it's burning there by Mihlali's Twitter. I said, I'm gonna check. And I'm like, okay. I called Mihlali. I said, babes, what's happening? What's the story here? We discussed. And she's like, yeah, you probably want to issue out like a statement now. I said, no. The reason that people love you, Mihlali, is because of your honesty and your relatability. You didn't start tweeting like this today. You've always been this person. So why would we now change it because we want to work with brand X or Y or Z? Brand X, and I've learned this from Somizi, they will work with you because they like what you do. And they mustn't change you when it's time to work with them. Yeah, that's point 1. Point 2, once we have decided as a collective, this is the direction that we are moving in. We allow for flexibilities, but let's continue. Let's remember the true north. The true north is that Mihlali is a content creator and she is a brand in and of herself. And these are the things she likes. And if it doesn't make sense to the things she likes, we're not doing it. Even if she changes her mind and says, no, today I like champagne. And then tomorrow she wakes up saying, I don't like champagne anymore. That's fine. It's still what she likes and what she can stand for. Point 3, it's her brand. Doesn't matter how smart I am, doesn't matter how knowledgeable I am, doesn't matter what an expert I am. At the end of the day, people are going to say, hey, Mihlali did ABC. Mihlali either did well or she did bad. Not Sibu Mabena. And those are the things you've got to know as someone who manages a human brand. They are the CEO. Well, sorry, they are the shareholder. They are the 100% shareholder. You are just the CEO who comes in to provide strategic direction. But at the end of the day, what she says is what must happen. And you look at AKA, you look at how he tweets. There was a time when people would go in and, like his team would go in and delete a tweet. But it's grown, it's worked for him, and he's able to stand up for it. He didn't wake up the next day and be like, oh, sorry guys, my phone was hacked. Yeah, all these excuses you hear people say. It was him. That's what he wanted to say. And as a team, you've got to know the person you're working with. When the person you are dating gets on the table and stands and starts dancing, you're like, hey, and I must be able to stand with her and she must have the confidence that, yo, my team is gonna back me up. When we make stupid decisions, we've made them together. When we make good decisions, we've made them together. But let's also have each other's backs and know that, hey, Mihlali so lana girl, lungisa. But it's not for us to go and say, she did it by herself. We don't know what's going on, because we want to vindicate ourselves from having taken a decision to stand by our leader, who is Mihlali. And that's how the relationship between manager and talent should be working. We work as a team.
Yeah. Kutlwano, would you ever fire somebody like an actor because of what they've posted in their personal capacity? Let me qualify that, right? The thought is an actor inhabits a role. That's not who they are. So if they are on a telenovela, whatever, and they're playing Jerry, whoever, that's a role that they're playing. And after you say cut, they take off that role and then go live their own personal life. Now you've got a situation now with social media where now they are not on set, they are in their personal life, in their personal capacity, they are tweeting something that is a little controversial. As an employer, would you ever fire an actor in that situation?
Not a chance.
Okay.
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you what I would do if I felt it was. I don't even know what the situation was, but I did feel that this was, and for me, it wouldn't be about the show. I care for all the people that we work with, so it wouldn't be about the show. If I felt that, whoa, maybe they might have gone a little bit past, or like we had an actor once upon a time who had some bad people around them. They had really bad people around them. There was a lot of drug use and a whole lot of things that we kind of felt like maybe it wasn't about the show, it's more about the individual that we cared about, right? It was more about, perhaps you ought to relook at what you're putting out there about yourself, but also just look at yourself and look at what you're doing. So for us, it's about that individual more than it is about the show. The people who have to worry about the show is not us, actually. It's Mzansi Magic, right? Or whoever they're the ones who got to worry about it. And people don't look at a person behaving badly and say, look at that Siriti actor. They say, look at that Mzansi Magic actor. So we don't. The power we have is to advise the person in the same way that Sibu was saying, to say, look, let's have the conversation and say, is this the right thing for you to do? And if they feel like, hey, leave me alone, this is my life, this is how I roam, shut, grand. But you know, when the channel comes in and say, listen, we want nothing to do with this person, of course, the first step we will do, and we've done it many times. Let's have a conversation with the channel. Let's mediate a table, meet ourselves as the custodians of that talent, and the channel of the show, and let's figure out how do we find a middle ground. If it's bad, it's bad. There's nothing we can do. But no, I wouldn't just fire somebody.
Yeah, Sibu, say you've got a client, right, who wants to venture into that niche market of promoting films, just films, okay? And right now there's no template as to how do you earn in that space. How would you go about, putting together their brand identity as an influencer in this regard? Like, you've got somebody who's an influencer who says, Sibu, I only want to concentrate on films, but right now there's nobody doing it. So there's no template as to, how much I should charge and all of that. How do you go about curating that?
I suppose, firstly, how do we position you as an authority? What qualifies you as an authority on this space? So a Phil Mphela is an authority on television news because, one, he's worked in the space for a very long time and he is a trusted voice and he has access to the correct information that can be verified. Therefore, Phil Mphela qualifies as someone we should trust. We're not influencer person. What qualifies you? That's question one. Two, in this space, would you still do it if you couldn't get paid a rand? Like, if there was no money coming in, is this something you would still want to do? If the answer is yes, let's go forward, let's charter, because it might take a while for you to build a presence enough for people to be interested in spending money with you in that space. And three, I suppose, are you willing to put in the hard work because you don't have the benefit of someone having done it before you? When you are a pioneer of something, there tends to be a lot more work that you've got to put in because you have to go and establish that blueprint. And when other people come and start doing what you're doing, you must be fine with it. So this thing of like, oh, people are copying me, people are not original, that's the point. That's the point of being a pioneer, that you are paving the way for other people to be able to do the same thing and therefore open up the industry. You don't know everyone and not everybody knows you. So by someone else being seen to be doing something that you're doing, they're exposing their network to something that you're doing. Now their network becomes a way of you doing it as well. So for a while, be okay with the fact that you might not make any money, but establish the ground, break ground, and then get a lead on it so that those who come behind you are following you. And that's, I think, how you'll start making money because you were a pioneer in such and such a space.
Yeah. Mishali? Hey. Are you still with us?
You have that like teacher in command voice. Like when
Listen, how much is personal investment? How important is personal investment when you're trying to be an influencer and actually build a career out of it? And by that, I mean in terms of capital, in terms of putting money aside to say, now I'm going to start being an influencer. This is how much I'm saving because it's going to help me be able to pay to get to these places or whatever. How much is that important?
You know what? It's a bit tricky with that one. So I say it's very important, but at the same time, I never want to discourage people from starting with what they have. So for when you're starting out with any brand, usually you start with what you have and then you put money back into the business to grow the business. A lot of people feel like, I want to be an influencer now. I must be shopping at Louis Vuitton so I can create, luxurious lifestyle content, and I need to, bring my bank to travel to Kenya to do this. Start with what you have, start small. And that's where collaborations come in. You don't have to spend so much money in the beginning, hit up various influencers that you could collaborate with. Lodges, for example, or any other brands like small businesses that are starting out, photographers, editors, videographers, and see where you can build from. So it's only really important once you actually start making money to put money back into your business. But when you are starting out, I think it's very important to start with what you have. And that's the whole beauty of your journey and being authentic, is that this is where her brand started, where she is now.
And do you think it's wise for influencers to negotiate their own fees for themselves?
Yeah, in the beginning, that's the reality of it in the beginning. I mean, I don't know of any influencer where you have 1,000 followers and it's like, okay, now I have an entire team. So in the beginning, negotiate. But what I think is very important for us in the industry is to sort of be able to have comfortable conversations with our colleagues on sort of guiding each other in terms of what we should be charging. There's a lot of people who are exploited, and that simply comes from not knowing, but taking a voucher from Zara and them asking you to post 5 times is not worth it. So when we can have that kind of conversation where it's like, don't let them take advantage of you, whether you're a macro influencer or micro, at the end of the day, you are doing work for them. So yeah. I hope that
Sibu, you work with, thank you. Sibu, you work with talent. Why do you think why do you think it's such a difficult conversation to have amongst talent when it comes to being honest about how much we earn? Because what Michelle is saying is actually very, 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 very important. I think it's very, very, very important for somebody young to hear, because I believe that if we were talking to each other, then we create that space and that knowledge ceiling where we all know, if I'm doing this much, I should be earning this much. But for some reason, I find that in South Africa, having those conversations amongst ourselves, it's a bit problematic, because we all want to pretend that we're making more than we're making. We all want to pretend that we're doing okay when we're not. Why do you think that is?
I mean, it's our culture as people. I think in all companies, they tell you don't discuss your salary. It's actually a policy that you don't discuss how much you're making. Even growing up, your cousins get money. Oh, when you tole mali, because also I think there's something about how we look at each other as people. And then I say, no, I don't have any. I say, how, you just got paid 60,000 last week when you it's just that.
Yeah.
The communication it has always been that way, right? Like between people. But where I'm finding joy is in being a transparent agency, Nina, like myself, and say to the people that I employ that, look, my budget is my budget. This is the most I can pay you. And if you're going to ask the next person how much they're getting paid, be my guest, because they can tell you. And if they don't tell you, but they tell me to tell you, whatever the conversation is, I don't mind. However, I do pick up the phone and ask someone if I get a brief from a client for a talent. And I say, they're asking me to do this, that. I saw your person did this. How much did they actually pay you? And I have the relationship enough with people to say, for them to tell me. And then I can go back to the client and say, look, based on information in general, I know that you're paying around this much. Can we negotiate higher, or is this the absolute best you can do? And that way the client then knows that, okay, you've done your research, you've gone and asked around, and they can't play you. I had a conversation with Kutlana the other day, and he graciously told me some information. And I was like, oh my gosh, we really need to be having these kind of conversations. But it also goes on trust. It goes on people knowing that you're not going to go and spread and say, do you know how much Kutlana is making eating in jail? It's not. That's the kind of relationships we have to establish amongst each other to be able to freely have these conversations.
Okay, cool. We've got a question. Oh, go ahead, Kutlana.
Just to add to that, in terms of that transparency thing, we do the same thing with our with all of our talent and crew. When you start off with every show that you get, the channel will say, all right, Seriti, okay, cool, we know you from Bomb, but actually now let's give you this much, and see what you can do with that much. We have that transparent conversation with our guys, being like, guys, we're gonna make the best show that we possibly can get, but this is what I got. And we're just straight up honest. And actually 10 out of 10 times people have actually signed on just because we had that clear transparency to be like, we're not trying to screw you over. We're letting you know that we want to make the best thing possible. But on this particular show, it's not like that. And when we then upgrade, and now we've been upgraded, we let them know, listen, times are better. And you're gonna get a better thing than you had before. So yeah, I'm on that transparency train.
Wonderful. Okay, let's take one moment to thank our sponsors. We'd like to say thank you to the Gauteng Film Commission, the Department of Arts and Culture, Sports and Recreation. We also would love to thank the Film and Publication Board for helping us put this little chat together. We also will be taking your questions very, very, very soon. I see you've got a question from Utumelo, as well as on YouTube, we've got some comment from Usmilo. Okay, actually, let me just read Usmilo's comment. He says, how are we integrating ways of advancing the film and TV through the use of social media aside of teaser promotions that are often posted at the last minute? What he's saying basically is, why is it that, I think this should go to Kukan. Why is it that in South Africa, we have a situation where a film is coming out next week, you'll only see the trailer this week. You know, a television program, it's TXing. On a Friday, you'll only get a promotion for it on a Monday. Why is that? It doesn't make sense.
I'm gonna actually almost kind of find a way to divert to Sibu because it's not my particular field.
Okay.
But you know, listen. I make films, man. And I would want nothing more than people to watch my films. I don't know what the conversation is, but what I can tell you that I know with the last film that I'd done, the last project that I did with Bomb, it really boiled down to I just happened to be lucky to sit down with the distributors, and we sat down and they told us what the budget was and what they were going to do with the budget. And when I saw the budget, I was like, oh, that's pretty decent, right? So I thought. But then when they broke down what that budget gets you, broke my heart, because I'm like, so you're basically saying that this film is going to be released on Sunday and people are only going to hear about it on Tuesday because that's what you can afford. That's what it had. So that's when we go back to what Sibu was saying, right? You guys have to start thinking outside of what the traditional line of selling your show is. You gotta start saying, okay, put out a WhatsApp trailer, put out an Instagram trailer, put out all these other trailers that you can then start spreading out, because we know that it costs, I don't know, 140,000 rands for your trailer to play twice on ETV or whatever. So there's only so much you can do. So it's not my field. I'm not gonna front like I know. Even with Mzansi Magic, we get told, when Gomora's coming out, we just get told, hey, avail this actor, avail this person, avail yourself for this interview, that interview. I just rock up, and then next thing the show's on TV and somehow people are watching, and I'm like, dope, cool. But Sibu, help me.
It's a very easy answer. I think it's just the stakeholders that are all involved in this product getting to market. That, to Kutlano's point, he makes the product. And then there's a separate team for marketing the product, and depending on the deal between distributor and the studio in movie terms, or between the production company and channel, who is responsible for what needs to be determined quite quickly. So with Gomora, for example, I knew about Gomora because I follow Kutlano, and he was talking about it from day one. Hey, Gomora, coming soon. These are the actors behind the scenes. This is the story. And we started buying into it, and he became an influencer for the show. It's his own show. But then the started coming to the board.
Coming for the check, Miss Lally.
Yeah. Sorry, Miss Lally. But it started becoming a conversation from the cast perspective, and then channel jumped on board, and then PR and all the traditional media platforms. So it is a really joint effort between everybody involved, and sometimes along the way, communication between stakeholders goes pear-shaped, and then you start seeing things fall apart. So it's not always down to the filmmaker, and people will blame Black Coffee and the makers of Matwetwe and say, how do you tell us this week it's coming out next week, and then you want to emotionally blackmail us into watching what, and it's like, no, somewhere in the value chain there was a breakdown in communication, and maybe that's what happened. Where you look at the traditional, like in Hollywood, they have templates for this thing. Movie is shot, this is how it's marketed, and this is how much time they have to market it before it goes live. We sometimes don't have the luxury of that time or the budget. So to not make excuses, but to say, consider that there is a value chain, and quite a hectic one at that. And that's sometimes the reason why things either pop off or they don't.
You know what I love about it? Oh, okay, go on.
Hollywood, there's that film, Paranormal Activity. The numbers are a little bit off, but they're kind of in this range. Paranormal Activity was made by a bunch of guys that were editors, and they had a whole bunch of technology, and they knew how to make a little horror film, right? And they made this film for about, I think $60,000 or $70,000. They sold it to Paramount Pictures for about $5 million. They thought they were really making a good deal. Paramount Pictures put $40 million of marketing into it, and the film made $400 to $500 million just off of marketing. So it wasn't even like the quality of it was a $40,000, $50,000 film, and it made $500 million just off of the marketing. So, marketing is everything, but the money too.
Yeah. No, I was about to say, Jorge, you know what I love about having conversations like this is because it kind of like enables us to educate each other and disseminate information that is much more wider and much more nuanced. Because I can sit on Twitter as Film Pela and say and criticize a producer or a channel, why have you not been, promoting this show? Why are you only promoting it now? But until a Sibu can come into the conversation and say, hey, Phil, this is happening because of A, B, C, D, E, then the conversation is left with, oh, these channels they don't know what they're doing. Look at, what Phil is saying, So I appreciate this conversation. So guys, I'm gonna try and take as many questions as I can. We only have 30 minutes. So let's try and keep the answers short so that I can get as many people as I can to get their questions answered. Yeah? So the first question is Kutlwano. Oh, Kutlwano wants to know, how can he get his stories on TV? I think Kutlwano wants to know.
To my Vito.
Yeah.
So it's such a twofold answer. But it sounds simple, but it's also a bit tricky. First of all, people always confuse an idea with a story. Two different things. Having an idea and having a story are two different things. An idea is, hey, I got this show. I want to do a show about a gangster living in Johannesburg. Okay, cool. That's an idea. That's not a story, right? That's number one. Number two, you then have to once you get to the point where you fleshed out your story and you have a story, there are some Mnet, some Mzansi Magic have an open portal on their website for unsolicited projects. You put your project there. And I know people always have this thing, what if they steal my idea? Trust me, they're not going to steal your idea. Because because Mnet are not producers, they are broadcasters. So what will happen is that you have your idea, you put your idea in there, and if they think it's really good and they see that you don't have the resources to make it happen, they will, if it's really that good, they will build the resources for you. They will then call a bomb. They'll call a Ferguson and say, hey, can you partner with this person to help them make the project? So trust those portals. Mnet have it, ETV have it, SABC have it. So yeah, that's kind of how I would say. And then for film, of course, National Film and Video Foundation, Gauteng Film Commission, all of those spaces are there for you to grow your ideas.
Yeah, and I always say, Jorge, in the art we have this thing, Jorge, there's nothing new under the sun, So that brilliant idea that you think is so unique and only you have it, you'll find that 10 other people have the same idea, And the other thing, Jorge, if you're sitting at home with an idea, it's worth nothing until somebody sees it. So somebody has to see your idea, So for lack of a better word, you have to risk it. You have to risk that somebody sees your idea and actually makes something out of it. Okay, then we've got another question from Brian Lupindo, and Brian wants to know, since you guys are the most highly recommended influencers as well, thank you. Are there any programs that you can offer in mentoring or guiding others who are interested in influencing? Michale, do you have any programs that you're offering for mentoring or educating people? Okay, Michale doesn't have that. Sibu?
Not necessarily on my side. However, we do have on our website, dumacollective.com, you can register as an influencer, someone that we database, because we do a lot of micro influencer campaigns. And then sometimes when we recruited a team, for example, I'll often just go live on a Zoom call and say, okay, this is how we're doing this campaign, and say, this is how I want to approach this influencer marketing thing, because I don't like it's going to be lit. You haven't even attended, wasn't I? So I run trainings, and that often helps people find a way to do things in a different way. So just be on our database and
Kutlwano, somebody wants to know, as a young filmmaker, can I be an assistant on Seriti Films, and how do I go about doing that?
Sure. We run an internship program on our shows, and the way to do so is to email your profile and just kind of let people know. Just kind of say, you know, what you're interested in, which part of the production you want to learn more on, to lerato@seriti.tv. And Lerato will put you on the program list. Of course, it's been difficult right now because of COVID, and we've got limited amount of people that we can have on. Normally, we can have 150 people, but right now we're limited down to like 50 or 60. So we're not taking any interns right now, but still send it to lerato@seriti.tv. And when the regulations get less, you will be put on.
Yo, Lerato's emails are about to be late.
Somebody wants to know from Kutlwano, does the South African Guild of Creatives, I don't know, do we have a Guild of Creatives in South Africa? I think we only have the Writers Guild, ne?
And the Independent Producers Organization, that's about it.
Yes. Oh, okay, cool, yeah. Do they really exist? I think we've answered that in a way, and contribute to foster independent projects. Okay, let me just rephrase that for him. Do we have platforms where independent filmmakers or independent content creators can go to, like, you know, get their projects out there outside of funding? I know the NFVF will offer somebody funding for an independent project, but do we have other platforms where if you're doing an independent project outside of having a production company, you can get help?
You know, it's we don't, and it's a sad thing because I have it in the States, right? And I see how beneficial it is for me. So I have an agency in America, CAA, and what's great about that is that whenever I've got an idea, I don't have to do as much running as I do when I'm in South Africa, right? Like I literally send my agent a one-pager, and my agent starts calling around to different executive producers who can be partners, to different stakeholders to say, you know, this really feels strong. How do we make this happen? And to be honest, if we had that over here, I think that would help a hell of a lot, because the only agents that we have in South Africa are for actors, right? But we don't, producers, and creators and directors, we all kind of have to hustle it out and bustle it for ourselves. But worldwide, it's a different game. You know what I mean? Like worldwide, bet you Steven Spielberg doesn't sit and like goes knocking on doors. There's people that are knocking on all of their doors. And I suppose having experience with it on the other side, I do feel like that's one major thing that would really go a long way on this side of the continent.
All right, cool. Mishale, do you have an agent or I don't know if that's an acting agent, but you're not an actor as far as I know. So I suppose as an influencer, do you have an agent?
The agency I work with is Duma. And then so they obviously go out and get deals for me. And I also get emails from quite a lot of friends in terms of deals.
Cool. Let me add on to that. So how does this work? Do you sign with an agency and the agency handles everything, or do you sign with an agency to get you and negotiate work for you, but you have your own separate manager?
So you can do it any way you want. For me, my management is within the agency. I just think it's easier to do it that way. But if you are someone who wants to have an agency for certain deals and then have a different manager, you can also do that.
Okay. Somebody wants to know, Matepo Mutibi says, most South African movies that I look for and watch is because the trailer was very good. So marketing the movie is very important, but the other thing is the Americans are not scared. I think that's a comment, not a question. We're about close to wrapping this up. So let's talk about longevity. Okay, right now we've got a situation right now with COVID-19. I say, guys, we're gonna be dealing with this for at least till next year, mid next year. That's what I believe, right? So that had forced us in a way as an industry to adapt. Okay, so I want us to take the conversation into that. Let me start with Kutlwano. Kutlwano, productions are getting shut down right now because of COVID-19. Your production, Go Gomora, you guys had to take a break earlier on in this lockdown. How do you think the industry will have to change to adapt to this COVID-19?
You know, we've already seen the big change. You know, on our side, you know, we look at where we were when we started off Gomora, the amount of people that we had on our sets. And that's what was the norm, right? We felt like, yeah, we need 150 people to be on our set every single day. So first of all, that's cut down drastically. Fortunately, we haven't had to lose lose any of the employees because we just kind of shifted into different teams instead of just letting go of people. But more than anything, it's insane because right now there's also a lot of pitches that are happening, right? And the first thing that you're getting is, okay, how are we gonna make this work? Right? Because everybody's so COVID-19 conscious. The first thing when you're writing now, you're no longer at a space where you're just writing we're on the streets of Alex gallivanting, there's all of you no longer have those things. So it feels like the shift is already there. Longevity wise, I've been hearing all kinds of things that have been happening. People have been, different people that are, DOPs shifted into to directors more and more because you need to have less people, directors shifting to being DOPs. Like there's so many different things that we all are having to just wrestle with. And I think we're in the middle of that wrestle, but I definitely think that our industry will not be the same for a long time to come after this.
Cool. So quick one, in terms of distribution platforms, which is better, having your film in cinemas or having it on a streaming service?
For South Africa, financially?
For South Africa, yeah, for South Africa. Like for South Africa and for you personally as a one profit, which is the better platform?
Mafra, streaming service.
Okay, cool. Wonderful.
Can I add to that question to say what are the different financial models for distributing content? So if you've got a movie, does Ster-Kinekor or New Metro license it from you? Or then what happens when it makes it onto TV? Why can it be on Netflix and TV? Like what works or how does it happen, Kutlwano?
So it's all in different phases, right? So traditionally, how it used to be before COVID-19, before streaming services and whatnot, would be you make a film, you take it to what you call, let's say you take it to a film festival, like a Cannes or Durban Film Festival, whatever. Ster-Kinekor see it there. They say, okay, we want your film on our side first, right? Then Mnet say we want it. Then SABC say they want it. Then people start bidding for when they can have it. So right now, for example, if you speak about the Netflix thing, you're seeing the old quizzical stuff like Intersections, etc., are now making it onto Netflix. That's because the license has lapsed with the SABC or whoever the broadcaster was. And then Netflix have come through and they kind of feel like, you know what, we showed this thing, we don't need to show it again. Netflix are trying to build up some people. Yeah, sure, we'll make some money. So when you own the content, you can then sell it at different stages. So there'll be some distributors who will say, we want Africa rights. And for the Africa rights, it means for the first 3-4 months of this thing, nobody else in Africa outside of MultiChoice can show this, or 2 years or however long.
Yeah. And
then after those rights lapse, you then go to the next territory and the next territory. So essentially projects just keep getting renegotiated. But obviously the first deal that you make is the most lucrative deal because those are the guys that are going out to market with it first. You know what I mean? But then as you own it, as you see it moving around.
Mishale, do you have an assistant? And if you don't, would you ever get one?
I did have an assistant prior to COVID, but right now I don't because I do a lot of the work from home anyway. So, it's easy to manage my schedule now. But post-COVID, I definitely will get an assistant again because I know I will need.
Yeah. And how has the whole pandemic and lockdown, how has it changed the way that you do your content and just your work in general? What impact has it had?
There's definitely been a lot of restrictions in terms of creativity and execution of your content. Everything is done within the walls of my home now, which is a little bit demotivating, I would say. But, a lot of my content was shot from home prior since it was beauty content. Lifestyle side of my content is completely on pause. There's been no travel trips. That's all been postponed. I obviously can't do any in-store appearance or activations at the moment. So there's definitely been that shift, but I'm grateful that I can still work from home.
Okay. Sibu, in terms of a person like Mishale, for instance, right? We're talking about, you see that the Americans have things like your match deals, they put out palettes, these beauty influencers, they put out palettes and all of that. Can we look forward to something like that in the future?
I mean, it's like you were in our office just day before yesterday. Look, we are very aware of the market and the fact, which Kutlana alluded to, where there are 400 million people in America, 250 odd in Nigeria. Our markets are very different in that you can release in your country only and still have enough people purchasing for you to make back the money. In South Africa, we are dealing with 55 million people, and maybe only 10 million of them have the purchasing power, and maybe 5 million of them would be interested. And then there's still the distribution job that has to be done for access to your product. So we've got to consider things like that and how what we put out and how much we're investing in it. Is it better to partner with a brand who is already existing in the space and has the distribution networks and all of that? Or is it better to champion our own thing? It's a financial consideration. It's also a timing consideration. And it's also what is the actual strategy? So there's a lot of things that we think about before we actually go out and do things. So there are things Mihlali wants to do. And I said to her, girl, if we're going to do this thing, we're going to do it better than anyone that's already done it. So that also influences, because we're not in a hurry. We're not in a rush to do A because B has done it already. So yeah, there's some cool stuff coming. And when it comes, you'll know. It would have been marketed right. You're not going to find out on Thursday that it's going live on Friday.
Back to Mihlali. Mihlali, what's like in terms of time? Because let's be real, okay? There's this element that in the internet space, things move very quickly, and it's very quick, and people can move on to something else very quickly as well. Does that make sense? So when you make plans like that, where you don't want to rush things because you want to do it right, but at the same time you have a situation where if you're not evolving quick enough on these spaces, you can be a bit, you can be shoved into redundancy in a way. How do you deal with that? How do you?
So I'm glad that I have a bit of a multifaceted brand, and not only do I also do digital content and whatnot. So if I'm ever going to release anything under my personal brand, I don't feel a lot of pressure because there's still a lot of things that I can do from a digital perspective, and considering my YouTube channel and my Instagram as well. I completely get what you mean, and it definitely is a concern. You do now and again that, oh my gosh, what if I don't launch these products in the next 2 months? I'm not relevant. But I think my online brand is constantly evolving and growing, and I try to adapt to what's currently happening. I try to stay on my toes and find ways to constantly keep my audience engaged and interested in what I'm about, because that's what my brand is built on. So I guess it's just about making sure that while you're working on the one thing, you're not slacking on the other.
Yeah. And would you ever do something outside of just your YouTube stuff and your beauty stuff? Would you ever venture, like, would you ever knock on Kutlwano's door and say, hey Kutlwano, I want to be on Gomora?
I don't know. I really don't know. I've definitely had opportunities in that space, but I don't know if it's something I would do. I'm still very much happy where I am right now, and there's a lot of other goals that I want to tackle within my industry, the beauty industry, of course. So I don't know if I'd ever be an actress.
Okay.
This is what happens. Oh, when manager, come on,
Kena.
Yes. You must listen. Okay, less.
Mihlali, so how important are relationships, just in terms of industry relationships? How important are those?
Do you mean industry relationships with other people in my industry, or
other people in the industry? Like how important is it to cultivate good relationships with people in the industry, even if you're not looking for anything from them, even if they can't employ you?
No, so for me, I'm not about social climbing, as people would say.
Yeah.
My brand was never based on association. It was never built on who she's friends with, which spaces she's seen in. So for me, it's not a top priority, but at the same time, I maintain a lot of respect for people in the industry. At the end of the day, these are people I could potentially work with. These are people I have to be in the same spaces as. So as long as we we cool and I respect them, that's completely fine with me. But I don't really have any good friends in the industry. I sort of like to keep things on a professional level. So I think to that degree, it's important. Just like you should respect any of your colleagues in any field, I feel the exact same way about my colleagues in the industry.
Right. Kutlwano, what is the biggest no-no for you in terms of people approaching you for opportunities? What is the one thing right now that you would say, don't do this when you want me to help you?
Stop calling me. I'm joking. No, you know, they're like people don't have that professional, there's a lack of professional etiquette, you know.
Yeah.
Don't call me on a Sunday afternoon when we don't know each other, because you got my number from somebody. You know what I mean? That's not cool. If you got my number, I'm pretty certain you'll get my email as well. Do you know what I mean? So just for me, it's really let's respect each other's spaces and let's respect each other's. Yeah, Monday to Friday, I'll take your call, and I'll direct the right person. And this isn't just about acting, you know. It's also, you know, I've got this idea, I want to make this idea. I'm like, I get you, but don't call me. If you're gonna call me and pitch me your idea, I'm not like, I want to read your idea, put it down on a piece of paper. Like, I gotta do the work, you gotta do the work too. So don't send me a voice note. Like, I've literally had somebody send me a voice note of a drama series they want to do. Like, I don't have this person's number. Yeah, then you're gonna start. I'm like, bro, like, no, like, I don't want to hear that. Like, put it on a paper. I do the same thing. We all put the work in, you know. So just have that professional etiquette. Take yourself seriously, and I'll take you seriously too.
Sibu, same question. In terms of clients, in terms of talent clients, what's the biggest no-no? What is that one thing that you say, if you come in with this, I won't be working with you, so don't even try?
Look, in general, I work with people I know. Okay.
Yeah.
So if we don't know each other, it becomes a little bit difficult for me to even have an appetite. So let's first spend time getting to know each other. So follow me, I'll follow you, because obviously our social media is the easiest platform to access information about each other on the daily. And then we talk. That's how I've gotten to work with each person that I do. And I also don't like to take on too many people. I have 4 people on purpose because I only have 24 hours in a day. And then we've got other brands that we work on as well, which are FMCG brands. So also acknowledge that, okay, mhlambe ubusy okwamanje, but for consideration, please say, oh, please keep me in mind when you do have an opening. That is, again, the professional way to approach versus asking Jessica for my number. Don't make it uncomfortable for Jessica either, because now you want what she has, or Umihlali, or etc. Yes, shoot your shot on email. Let's do that. Let's go that way. So to Kutlwano's point, don't send a voice note. Don't do that.
Kutlwano, in terms of actors, I don't know how to ask this without making it specific to that situation. Do you think that production companies should be paying for an actor's personal expenses? Like, let's say somebody comes and auditions, right? And they are from, say, Durban, but they don't tell you when they audition that they're from Durban, and then you hire them. And all of a sudden they're like, dude, I can't make it out to work because I'm actually from Durban. I was staying at my friends for 2 weeks. Do you think that there should be a responsibility after that to be able to house them and all of that?
Phil, if you apply for a job at a bank in Cape Town and they say we want you, do you want is the bank supposed to pay for your accommodation in Cape Town and you live in Joburg? It's no different in our industry. And I think people have to be fair. It's every industry is the same. Like, whether you're not gonna expect, you're gonna shoot your shot and go for an accounting job or a legal job, whatever it is, out of this town. When you make that consideration and then you get that gig, you better be prepared for when they say yes. I always say, be prepared for what you pray for. Don't pray for things that you're not prepared. Do you know what I mean? So, because then you're gonna get that yes, and now you're chilling there. Actually, sorry, Standard Bank, I don't have a house in Cape Town, so I can't do this job. Can you pay for my house? Standard Bank will be like, no, we're not gonna pay for your house in Cape Town. We're giving you employment already. I think that there's this unfairness around the film industry because I think people think it's glamorous, so this things are supposed to be a certain way. Like, guys, we are a business just like every single industry out there. We just happen to be entertainment, but we're a business. I'm not gonna pay for your accommodation. We have 2 of our actors on Gomorrah. auditioned they lived in Cape Town. They made sure that if they were to get this job, in fact, I asked them like, yo, if you get this gig, are you okay in Joburg? Yeah, I got an aunt, I got a this, and then when I get my second, they make plans themselves. So this thing of like throwing people under the bus when you wouldn't do it in any other industry, you wouldn't do that. You wouldn't call Standard Bank out because they didn't get your accommodation to come. Why are you calling my production company out? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the answer is no, I will not pay for your accommodation.
Okay, Miss Ale, you've had a great career thus far, right? Say you wake up tomorrow and it's all taken away from you. What's the one thing that you're gonna be grateful for?
My time. I think just the legacy I've left, sort of in terms of my brand. People know me from when I started out. Some people label me a game changer in this industry. So I think I'll be grateful for what I've left behind, and also just giving, young people who are inspired by me the opportunity to confidently follow their dreams because they saw somebody in this industry that was never really respected or recognized doing well for themselves. So I think that's one thing I'd be very, proud to leave behind. And hopefully that does not happen.
We hope not. Sibu, you are one of the most respected people in the business. People might not say it out loud, but a lot of people know your name and respect what you do, and you've worked with some of the biggest names in the industry. What would you want your legacy to be? If you had to decide to leave this industry or whatever, what would you want your legacy to be?
How many jobs I've created, and how many people those people have gone on to impact. So even something that I always say in my company is, you guys are not going to be getting watches for being here for 10 years. I'll be damned if you haven't gone on to create opportunities for other people beyond the opportunity I've created for you. And like, I'm paying it forward. So I want all the seeds that I'm planting to go on and create other trees. That's what I want to be remembered for, not any of the cool stuff we did with Oprah at Global Citizen or Thierry Henry being here for Heineken. No, all of that stuff is great, but how many lives have we changed? That's what matters to me.
Yeah. All right, cool. Kutan, final one, my brother. Anything that you're working on that you want to give me a scoop on?
Not right now. But I'll tell you that I can't say anything right now.
Okay. Look, I respect that.
When I can, I will.
All right, cool. Guys, thank you so much for having this chat with us. I enjoyed it immensely. I learned so much. You guys are definitely game changers, Mihlali. All three of you doing amazing work. And I hope everybody that's watching this from home actually learned something from our conversation. Before we go, I want to thank the guys at the Gauteng Film Commission, as well as the Department of Arts and Culture, Sports and Recreation. Not forgetting the Film and Publication Board for making this chat possible. Remember, you are so special, but not too special that you cannot humble yourself and ask for help or work with other people. You know what I mean? Don't be afraid to ask for help, but like these guys said, and also be professional and respect people's personal spaces and respect people's jobs. I love you guys so much. I'm Phil Kopolompela. Catch me on the socials, and apparently I'm still a TV host. I don't know. So when my show comes back, watch that. Thank you, Mihlali. Thank you, Sibu. Thank you, Kutlwano. Love you guys. Bye.
And thank you, Phil. You're an incredible host, man.
You're amazing. You asked the right question. You asked.
I try.
Awesome.
Bye, guys.
The Gauteng province has created a relief for the benefit of individuals within the sports and arts sector. This is out of the realization that sports and arts continue to be one of the sectors that is hardest hit by the COVID pandemic. And in this regard, as a caring government, we have found means of how we can create some form of relief for individuals within the sectors, but also possible job opportunities. And in this regard, one of the things that we have done with all the national events or national day events that we do have, we've made them virtual. and are still able to employ and work with various artists and sports individuals. And this has been done from our Human Rights Day, our Freedom Day, and now with Youth Month. We continue to integrate artists and sports individuals within, so that whilst COVID does not allow for major events to take place, by going virtual, it enables us to still be able to utilize these skills and showcase the talent that the province has. With regard to the Gauteng Relief Fund that is created for individuals within the sports and arts sectors, this is a relief fund of 28 million, which we seek to find individuals who work within our communities. These may be individuals who teach art classes within communities, who coach soccer teams within communities, netball teams, and so forth across the various sporting codes. These are the individuals who play a critical role in the development of our communities. These are people who ensure that our communities keep fit and, more importantly, are engaged within positive recreational activities. Our fund is geared at all these people, and all we ask is that you come and apply, visit our website, visit our social media pages at Gauteng SACR, that's at Gauteng SACR, and you'll be able to get more information. We really want to make sure that we assist these individuals because we appreciate the work that they do in our communities, because it is in line with what government seeks to do, and we want to make sure that people continue being engaged within positive activities such as recreation, within arts, within our sports, and so forth. So please do apply. This fund is for you.
Films, games, and publications may contain numerous kinds of content, of which some can offend or be downright unsuitable for certain age groups. This is where we come in. The Film and Publication Board, or FPB for short, exists to help regulate what content you or your child gets exposed to. Along with the help from the public and cooperation from distributors, we set out to ensure that anyone and everyone can make informed decisions when deciding on what to watch, play, or read. Now, please sit back, relax, and allow me to quickly show you how we can achieve these goals and elaborate as to what we actually stand for. First and foremost, concerning our mandate and function, the FPB has 3 objectives. Namely, number 1, to provide consumer advice to enable adults to make informed viewing, reading, and gaming choices, both for themselves and for the children in their care. Number 2, to protect children from exposure to disturbing and harmful materials and from premature exposure to adult experiences. And number 3, to make the use of children in and the exposure of children to pornography punishable. We fulfill our mandate through the classification of films, games, and certain publications, registration of distributors and exhibitors, and the determination of exemption applications. To clarify, classification is the process of assigning age ratings and consumer advice to all films, games, and certain publications that are distributed or exhibited in South Africa. Even though the FPB and its partners do anything and everything in our power to protect children from harmful material, at the end of the day, it is a shared responsibility. Members you.